I did have schemes in mind of becoming a lawyer, and had passed the Hanyu Shui Ping Kaoshi, which is a kind of a TOEFL for entrance into Chinese university, and I was going to go to Beijing University to study law, which is actually an undergraduate program there, or it was at the time. Um, and then I was hoping to come back to the States to study law. So it was in the very early inception of this notion of becoming a lawyer. But yes, that was my vision. I was not envisioning myself becoming a musician. It's connected to a story that I've already shared. That's um, there's this huge transition, this huge shift in my life when I was preparing to go to China to study law. Um, and I decided that before I left, because I had this feeling if I was going to go there, I was probably going to end up working in some international law firm. I'd probably be there for 5 or 6 years, you know? So I should do some things in America that I wasn't going to be able to do on my short little vacations that I had. So I went on this massive road trip from Vermont through Massachusetts, New York, down through the Eastern Seaboard. I went over to the Blue Ridge Parkway and I went through West Virginia, and I stopped at a wonderful fiddlers gathering at a place called Augusta Heritage Center in Elkins, West Virginia, which I highly recommend anybody who's interested in this early music check out. I continued down into Tennessee and North Carolina. I studied some banjo with an amazing musician named Riley Bogus. I met my future bandmates at a convention for bluegrass music in Kentucky. I was in a band called Uncle Earl for a long time. We still do occasional shows. And I ended up down in Nashville, Tennessee. And during that road trip, I meditated intensely for 5 days at an ashram. I went to New York City and saw shows and hung out in the streets late at night. I went through West Virginia and absorbed this amazing music from these fiddlers that had lived in West Virginia in these mountains and learned from their, elder. And for years and years, I went to North Carolina and Kentucky and Tennessee and started to really get a sense of the Appalachian and Southern culture that I had not lived inside of. And when I got down to Nashville, Tennessee, I got offered a record deal randomly after being at this convention in Kentucky for a few days. And it was shocking. I only knew how to play 4 or 5 songs on the banjo. I mean, I was new to the banjo. I did not play banjo until I was in my early 20s, So I could barely eke out 3 or 4 chords and sing these couple of songs. But this person at a small folk label at the time called Sugar Hill Records asked if I would make a record for them. So that just spun me off on this whole new course. And I thought, okay, maybe I need to try this out. This is too much. Like, this doesn't happen to people. I should try this, So I called my friends in China and I just said, hey, I'm not coming back. I'm going to play music and make a record. And they said, you play music? It was just like, what? So that was just a huge shift in my life. So, and I've never gone back to go study law in China. I've gone back many times to go on tour, and that's been central to my purpose in life, was combining those two purposes of the bridging and sort of the social justice piece of wanting to learn Chinese about Chinese culture and feel closer to it, and combining that with music itself. And that became touring and sharing the music with people and being in conversation with music as the centerpiece, folk music as the centerpiece, which is the greatest gift that the universe has ever given me, was having music be the centerpiece of my relationship with China. Yeah.